On the morning Amma believed she was walking toward her dream life, the man she trusted most vanished without a trace. For 7 years, Amma and Kofi had been inseparable, the couple people called perfect together. Their wedding was only 2 weeks away. Invitations were sent, the Golden Palm Banquet Hall in Silver Coast Town booked, the caterers ready. That morning, Amma reached across their bed and found Kofi's side cold. At first, she thought he had gone for his usual early walk. But when she noticed his side of the bathroom untouched, a sharp unease gripped her chest. Where are you watching from today? Kindly hit like, comment and subscribe to this channel for more. Amma called Kofi's phone. It went straight to voicemail. She sent him a quick text. Where are you? Woke up and you weren't home. No reply. By midday, worry began to grow into dread. Kofi was not the type to disappear without a word. She called his mother, no answer. His father sounded confused, saying Kofi hadn't mentioned any plans to travel. That was when Amma felt the first true wave of panic. By late afternoon, Amma had reached out to his closest friends. Normally they were quick to respond, but now they avoided her calls. A few read her messages without replying. Others simply ignored them. It was unsettling. These were the same people who laughed freely with her at dinners and parties, but now they were silent. Amma sat in her living room in Silver Coast Town, glancing at the clock every few minutes, wondering if she should report him missing. The thought of something terrible happening gnawed at her. That night Amma barely slept. Every phone notification made her heart leap, but it was never him. Around 4 a.m., exhausted and restless, she opened Instagram just to distract herself. And then her breath caught. On her screen was a group photo. Kofi in the middle of a lively bar, drinks in hand, smiling as if he had not a care in the world. But what hit Amma hardest was the location tag. Valencia, Spain. He was thousands of miles away, enjoying himself, while she sat at home drowning in worry. Amma's hands trembled. Spain. Without a single word. Without a note, a message, or a call. She stared at the image until her eyes blurred. The caption was full of jokes and emojis from his friends, as if she didn't exist. She tapped the bar's location, confirming it wasn't local. This wasn't a last-minute decision. He had planned this. At that moment, Amma felt something inside her shift, a deep, quiet hurt that began to harden into the sharp edge of betrayal. Amma's heart pounded as she typed a message. I know where you are. Get on the next flight home or this wedding is off. She hesitated only for a moment before pressing send. Then she wrote again, pouring her disappointment into a long, emotional text. But Kofi's phone was still off. She placed the phone beside her and sat in the dark, her mind replaying their years together. The laughter, the shared dreams, the promises. Now all of it felt like a cruel joke. By the next day she had no reply. Instead she saw more Instagram stories, this time of Kofi at a sunny beach, a drink in one hand and his arm around one of his friends. The sight made Amma's chest tighten. It wasn't just that he had gone. It was that he looked happy to be away from her. This wasn't about the wedding anymore. It was about respect. How could he vanish like that and not even care about the pain he left behind? That evening her phone finally rang. It was him. His voice was calm, almost casual. Hey, he said, as if nothing had happened. Amma gripped the phone tighter. Do you have any idea what you've done? She demanded, her voice shaking. You disappeared. I thought something had happened to you. Do you know how scared I was? Kofi sighed like she was overreacting. It's not that big a deal, he said. Amma could hardly believe her ears. Kofi went on to explain that his old university friends had been planning this surprise trip for months. They told him only last week, and everything was already paid for. I didn't want to waste the money, he said. Amma asked why he hadn't just told her. His answer cut her deeply. Because I knew you'd overreact. I deserve to have fun with my friends. I haven't had a trip like this in years. Amma was stunned. Was this the man she was going to marry? She asked him point blank. What about our wedding? Did you even think about that? His answer was cold. I'll be back before then. Just 2 weeks. Relax. That word, relax, burned in Alma's ears. Her voice dropped low, heavy with resolve. If you're not back tomorrow, she said, there will be no wedding to come back to. Kofi didn't flinch. I've already told you I'm staying. Deal with it. Then he hung up, leaving Alma staring at the silent phone, her hands trembling with a mix of rage and heartbreak. Alma sat in the dark for hours after the call ended, her thoughts turning like storm clouds. The man she was supposed to marry in 2 weeks had chosen to party in another country rather than be with her. And worse, he had told her to deal with it. The love she once felt began to harden into something colder. She decided she wasn't going to wait for him to come back. She was going to take control of the situation before he ever stepped foot in Silver Coast town again. The next morning, she woke up hollow but determined. She didn't expect an apology from Kofi anymore. She opened her phone and typed a message to the wedding planner. We need to talk. The reply came quickly, likely expecting a minor seating change or cake adjustment. But Alma's mind was set on something far more final. After that, she drafted a short message to all their guests. Hi everyone. I wanted to let you know the wedding is cancelled. Please don't contact me about this right now. I need time to process everything. Thank you for understanding. She read it 3 times before hitting send. The responses started flooding in almost instantly. Sympathy from some, curiosity from others, and silence from those who had likely already heard whispers of the truth. By that afternoon, Kofi's parents called. His mother's voice was shaky with confusion. Alma, what is going on? Why are people saying the wedding is cancelled? Alma told them everything, from the moment she woke up to find him gone to the photos from Spain, to his cold dismissal during their call. His mother began to cry. His father muttered under his breath. He needs to grow up. They promised to try and talk to him, but Alma wasn't counting on it. That evening, Kofi called again. This time, Alma didn't answer. Moments later, a text appeared. Please answer. I just want to talk. She ignored it. The next day, she began canceling everything. The hall, the photographer, the caterer. Each confirmation email felt like another step toward reclaiming her dignity. Some vendors were kind, others demanded steep cancellation fees. Alma accepted them without argument. She saw it as the price of freedom. Once the cancellations were complete, Alma turned to the task she dreaded most, packing up Kofi's belongings. She moved quickly, stuffing his clothes, books, and personal items into boxes. Even the small trinkets he had insisted on keeping in the living room went into the pile. She carried them into the spare room and shut the door, as though sealing away a chapter of her life. 2 days later, she saw his car in the driveway. Her stomach clenched. She didn't open the door when he knocked. Alma, please. Let's talk. We can fix this, he called. His voice cracked, and for a moment she felt herself waver. But then she remembered the Instagram photos, the laughter, the words deal with it. She spoke through the door. The wedding is off. You made your choice. Kofi began to cry, loud, desperate sobs that echoed in the still air. Alma leaned against the wall, tears streaming down her own cheeks, but she didn't open the door. Eventually, the knocking stopped, and she heard his car drive away. The sound was both a relief and a heartbreak. She knew this was the end, but endings rarely felt clean. That night, her phone lit up with messages from his friends and family. She's really sorry, they said. You need to talk to her. Alma ignored them all. Love, she thought, wasn't enough if it came without respect. And respect was something Kofi had thrown away the moment he boarded that flight. In the days that followed, Alma felt a strange mix of freedom and grief. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, yet she knew she couldn't go back. She avoided social media, blocked numbers, and focused on small tasks, washing dishes, organizing her closet, watering her plants. Every action, no matter how small, was a reminder that she was still here, still standing, even if her life had been turned upside down. Alma's resolve was soon tested. Kofi's parents began calling her every day, pleading with her to reconsider. "He knows he made a mistake," his mother said more than once. "You've been together for 7 years, Amma. Are you really going to throw that away over one bad decision?" Amma's grip tightened on her phone. "It wasn't one bad decision," she replied. "It was a choice that showed me exactly where I stand in his life." The silence on the other end was heavy. Some mutual friends also started weighing in. One messaged her bluntly, "You're overreacting. He didn't cheat on you. He just went on a trip." That word, overreacting, lit a fire inside her. "It's not about the trip," she typed back. "It's about disappearing without a word, ignoring my calls, and acting like I was the problem." When the friend kept pushing, Amma simply blocked the number. She was learning that not everyone deserved an explanation. Her own parents tried to mediate, though their tone was less sympathetic than she hoped. Over dinner one night, her mother sighed. "Amma, people make mistakes. You're not perfect either." Amma set her fork down. "This isn't about perfection, Mama. It's about respect. He didn't respect me, our plans, or our future." Her father chimed in. "Sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture." Amma shook her head. "The bigger picture is that I can't marry a man who thinks it's okay to vanish without a word." A week later, the situation took an even stranger turn. Kofi's university friends sent Amma a long email. It began with a vague apology, but as she read on, she realized it wasn't an apology at all. They claimed the trip was meant to help Kofi relax, because he'd been stressed about the wedding. They even admitted telling him to ignore her calls. "We thought you'd cool off when he got back," they wrote. Amma closed her laptop without finishing the message. That night, she sat on her balcony, staring out at the quiet streets of Silver Coast town. The warm air carried the faint scent of roasting plantain from a nearby vendor. She thought about how much of herself she had poured into the relationship, the years, the patience, the compromises. And in return, she had been met with silence, lies, and a complete lack of accountability. For the first time, she felt no sadness about her decision, only clarity. The next morning, she sent Kofi's parents a short message. "He can come for his things, but I won't be here when he does." They tried to call her immediately, but she didn't pick up. She didn't want another round of pleading or guilt-tripping. She had made her choice, and this time she was standing firm. When Kofi came to collect his belongings, Amma wasn't home. Her neighbor, Mrs. Mensah, who had agreed to let him in, later told her he looked tired, older, almost worn down. "He didn't say much," Mrs. Mensah said. "Just carried the boxes to his car and drove off." Amma listened quietly, feeling no urge to ask for more details. In the weeks that followed, Amma began the slow process of reclaiming her life. She rearranged the apartment, moving furniture and changing curtains. She bought new bedsheets, bright yellow ones that had nothing to do with Kofi's muted tastes. Every change was a small declaration. "This is my space now." Still, the world around her didn't make it easy to move on. Mutual friends kept bringing up his name. Strangers who had heard about the cancelled wedding would stop her in the market to ask, "Is it true?" Amma learned to smile politely and change the subject. Some days, she avoided leaving home altogether just to escape the questions. But slowly, the weight began to lift. She found herself laughing with friends again, enjoying quiet evenings without checking her phone every few minutes. For the first time in months, she could look in the mirror and see a woman who had chosen herself over someone who didn't value her. And that, she realized, was a kind of victory no one could take away. One afternoon, almost 2 months after Kofi had collected his things, Amma ran into him at a cafe in the heart of Silver Coast town. She had gone there to meet a friend, but when she stepped inside, she saw him sitting alone by the window, staring at his phone. For a moment, she considered turning around and leaving, but before she could move, he looked up. Their eyes met. Kofi gave a faint smile and gestured to the seat across from him. Amma hesitated, then decided to sit. The conversation that followed was polite but hollow. They spoke about work, about the weather, about mutual friends. But they did not talk about Spain, the cancelled wedding, or the pain that had torn them apart. When Amma left, she realized she felt nothing. No anger, no longing, just emptiness. That meeting made her see something clearly. Closure wasn't going to come from Kofi. If she wanted peace, she had to create it herself. That evening, she wrote in her journal for hours, pouring out every thought she had kept bottled inside. By the time she stopped, her eyes were heavy, but her heart felt a little lighter. Her parents, however, weren't done trying. One Sunday after church, they invited her over for lunch. Midway through the meal, her mother began again. "Amma, he's young. He made a mistake. You can work this out." Amma set down her fork. "Mama, he didn't just make a mistake. He showed me exactly how much I mean to him, and it wasn't enough." Her father sighed heavily but said nothing. In the following weeks, Amma threw herself into her work at Sunwave Holdings. She volunteered for extra projects, stayed late when needed, and even helped train new recruits. Her boss noticed, and by the end of the quarter, she received a small promotion. It wasn't just about the job. It was about proving to herself that she could grow without Kofi by her side. She also started taking better care of herself. Early morning jogs along the quiet streets became a habit. She joined a weekend cooking class and learned to make dishes she'd never tried before. Spicy wache with fish, soft butterbread, and pepper soup that could clear the sinuses in one spoonful. Each new skill felt like reclaiming another part of herself. But reminders of Kofi still found their way into her life. One day, she received a text from an unknown number. It was one of his university friends writing, "She's miserable without you. Please talk to him." Amma stared at the message for a long moment before deleting it without replying. The old Amma might have answered. The new Amma knew better. 3 months after the cafe encounter, Amma attended a wedding of a mutual friend. She knew Kofi might be there, but she didn't let that stop her. She wore a deep green lace dress, her hair in soft curls, and held her head high. As expected, she saw him across the room, and he saw her. They exchanged polite smiles but didn't approach each other. Later that night, as Amma danced with friends, she realized something important. She wasn't sad. She wasn't bitter. The sight of him with other people didn't bother her. The wound had healed, not perfectly, but enough for her to move forward without carrying the weight of the past. By the time she left the wedding, Amma knew she had crossed an invisible line. She was no longer the woman who waited by the phone for someone who didn't respect her. She was the woman who had chosen herself and built a life she could stand in with pride. And in her heart, she knew that was the real happily ever after. In the months that followed, Amma realized healing wasn't a straight path. Some mornings she woke up feeling light and free. Other days, memories of Kofi crept back uninvited. But the difference now was that she no longer let those memories control her. They were part of her story, but they were no longer the whole story. She started spending more time with people who truly valued her. Old friends she had lost touch with began reappearing, and she welcomed them back into her life. She visited her aunt in Bright Shore City for a week, enjoying long walks by the sea and laughter-filled evenings around the fire. It reminded her that love could be safe and kind, not something that left her feeling small. Kofi tried one last time to reach her. He sent a short message. "I hope you're doing well." Amma read it twice, then put her phone down without replying. It wasn't out of bitterness. It was because she had nothing left to say. Some conversations didn't need to happen, and some doors once closed should stay shut. Her parents eventually stopped bringing his name up. They saw how happy she was becoming, how her laughter had returned, how she no longer avoided social gatherings. One evening her father quietly said, "Amma, you did the right thing." It was a small sentence, but to her, it felt like the final piece falling into place. Work at Sunwave Holdings continued to grow more fulfilling. Amma was now leading a small team, mentoring younger staff, and taking on projects that challenged her. She realized that the energy she used to pour into trying to fix a broken relationship was now fueling her own growth, and it was paying off. She even started a small side business on weekends, baking and selling the bread recipes she had learned in her cooking class. It was never about the money. It was about building something that was hers alone, something no one could take from her. Customers began returning every week, praising not just the bread but the warmth with which she served it. By the time a full year had passed since the cancelled wedding, Alma had transformed. She still lived in the same apartment in Silver Coast Town, but it felt like a new space entirely. The colors were brighter, the walls held new memories, and the air felt lighter. She had built a life where her joy wasn't dependent on anyone else's choices. One Saturday morning, while arranging loaves for delivery, she caught herself humming. It struck her that this was the first time in years she had felt completely at peace. No waiting for calls. No explaining herself to people who didn't want to understand. Just quiet, steady contentment. When a neighbor asked if she ever regretted calling off the wedding, Alma smiled. "No," she said simply. "I regret that I ignored the warning signs for so long, but I don't regret choosing myself." The neighbor nodded, and in that moment, Alma knew her words would stay with her. Her friends began telling her she inspired them, not because she was perfect, but because she had shown that walking away could be an act of courage, not failure. Alma accepted their praise with humility, knowing how hard the road had been. She hoped her story would remind others that love without respect was never worth holding on to. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops of Silver Coast Town, Alma sat on her balcony with a cup of ginger tea. She thought about the life she might have had with Kofi, the house, the children, the shared dreams, and realized it would have been built on shaky ground. The image faded like a shadow at sunset. She understood now that not every ending was a tragedy. Sometimes it was a rescue. And though she had once feared starting over, she now saw it as a gift. She was free to create a future that truly reflected her heart. As the evening breeze brushed against her skin, Alma whispered a quiet prayer of thanks, not for what had happened, but for the strength she had found in surviving it. She knew she would face challenges again, but she also knew she could face them without losing herself. In the heart of Silver Coast Town, Alma's story became a quiet legend among friends and neighbors. They told it not as a tale of heartbreak, but as a lesson, that self-respect is worth more than any wedding, and that true love never asks you to betray yourself. And so, Alma's life moved forward, not with the man she once thought she couldn't live without, but with herself, whole and unbroken. She had learned the kind of wisdom only pain could teach. Sometimes letting go isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of the one you were always meant to live.